Welcome back, everyone, to another VS Code Live special edition on a Monday. It is a rarity, but it is a big day in the world of MCP inside of everywhere. And we have two of the most amazing people that get to join me, James Montemagno, on the stream. Some of my best friends in the entire world that you see often here on the VS Code channel, Mr. Harold from the VS Code team, and
Hey,
Den
James.
from Anthropic joining us. Oh, my good gentlemen, how is it going?
It's good. How are you? It's you have such a nice intro. Like, I don't know how we follow that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. So you just and stream over, click, and we're good to go. You know, I just get so hyped, one, when I get to talk to some of my best friends in the entire world and the amazing developer community that's out there that is tuning in, because there's some things that dropped today that I didn't even know was coming. Harold pinged me. He was like, do you know about this thing? And I was like, I do not know about this thing. And then he's like, check out this post. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Because I kind of knew that something in this world was going to happen. And a lot of things happened today. So I want to just get, and we're going to answer questions along the way. We got demos along the way. I want to just level set here for people that are coming in, first and foremost, maybe Den, because you worked so close with the MCP steering community, on the MCP steering community, now at Anthropic, working on MCP stuff. What do people need to know really quick on what MCP is, why they would want to use MCP servers in development, and also the use cases outside of coding development as well? Because I think that's an important thing to talk about, especially what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. So where do I even start? So MCP is Model Context Protocol. And when I tell people, like, how do you explain this, James, I actually stole your way of explaining it. Because when people talk about, like, what's MCP? And I was like, just flip the letters. And that's what MCP is. It's a protocol for providing context to models, right? This is a James Montemagno trademark right there. But it's essentially a protocol. It's a standard that allows you to connect a bunch of different data sources and applications to your LLMs, because all of the large language models, they're trained on a specific data set, and the training takes a specific amount of time and a specific snapshot, right? It's like you have a model that's been trained in like 2024. And if all of a sudden I want to query, it's like, what's my latest sales data for my company? Like, that model has no concept of that. Not the least because a lot of this data is also locked behind the wall of your whatever sales tracking system that you have. So MCP is there to break those walls. It provides a lot of the abstractions for things like authorization, transports, and make sure that you can connect to that data in a consistent way across all the clients. And MCP has seen like a lot of adoption, obviously, like Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, Copilot Studio. And I mean, from the Anthropic side, we have Claude. The OpenAI folks have also adopted it. Cursor has adopted it. So we see a lot of this industry pool behind this at this point, and we're only a little bit more than a year in.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I got to see, you know, there was the MCP sort of mini documentary that is, you know, really awesome film crew. I'll find a link to that and drop it for the 1 year that happened, the celebration on the GitHub blog, which was really awesome to see. And I use this stuff every day, especially over the holidays. I was doing tons of holiday hacking, and I was connecting to, you know, Microsoft Learn documentation, to the GitHub servers, to Superbase databases, to my Azure databases. And I was doing really unique things. I was querying like, hey, what columns and what rows are updated? Do I need to do a migration? Are my policies in place? Let me run this stuff. And it could pull that information through the authentication, understand where my data is at, and then it could parse that and give me information. And the cool part is that it knows about my code, or the additional context that it can mix together into it. And we've seen that also with like the Playwright MCP server, where it's able to basically test your application, generate tests, and run these additional commands. So it's not only just like going off and grabbing data, you're passing it data. It's able to execute things and go back and forth. There's tons of capabilities in it that I don't think even people know about. Like, what are some of the other capabilities besides just the core sort of tool calling that people think about, Dan?
Yeah, no, so tool calling is one of them. And there's a number of other primitives like resources, because an MCP server itself can expose direct access to database or your file system, or maybe there is some completely custom resources. There's also this concept of elicitations that is essentially allowing an MCP server, which an MCP server is basically an entity that manages your MCP context that you're dealing with. Like, it could be like a Salesforce MCP server. There could be an MCP server for a documentation website. So what essentially elicitations do is they allow you to ask the user for context so you don't have to guess it from the LLM output. So for example, if you have I'm trying to query data for the last year, you don't actually have to have the LLM assume what last year is. You can just ask the users, like, what year do you want the data for? And then the user will type in like 2025 and then get the data. There's also the concept of obviously roots that allows you to essentially map a file system / workspace or any other working tree, and vscode supports that. I actually have a lot of people that I know that are fans of that, so thank you, Harold. And obviously, like a lot of the things, I say obviously a lot, like because I've been so immersed in that, but for a lot of these things are also well documented on modelcontextprotocol.io. You have the transports, you have a lot of the what now is known as extensions, and we have an extension that we're going to be talking about today, and there's extensions for auth that allow you to do things like client credentials, and in the future, some of the token binding and all the rich auth related, security related stuff that people have been asking for.
That's awesome. And Harold, because we're on the VS Code channel here, how does this show up for developers as we're developing applications inside of VS Code? And how's that evolved over like the last, several months, but since this thing came out?
Yeah, we hopped on this quickly as we already did extensions. So with MCP, yeah, it's another extension surface. It's awesome. Like, people love writing the thing once, and then it can be used by anybody. People can write clients like, oh, I need to write an agent that needs to look at other services. Like, as long as you make it MCP compatible, it can do that. And I always found the initial hype was so developer driven. Like, people just figured out I can connect it to anything. I can connect it to my iMessages through AppleScript. Well, it's just like this really vibrant ecosystem that popped up, which is of course a security nightmare for companies, but overall it's like a beautiful moment of like, you can just go on GitHub, search it, and somebody probably built it already, or there's a solution that might be out there that doesn't do the thing you want yet, but somebody forked it and added it. So that was, I think, this magical kind of developer moment where people discovered this protocol that could potentially allow their agent to look at any data that they have and to take more actions that it couldn't do before. So perfect for something in VS Code where we already had extensions that give you more things to look at, more things to click at to take action. So just a perfect time. And if I share the screen, we can see how MCP has evolved to something that's not just a kind of thing you install. So what I think early days was like JSON hacking, and then hopefully you got it right and the right package, and you hopefully had the right runtime installed and everything else. And this is how MCP looks like for most users these days. It's just another kind of extension-like thing you install. You can see what it needs. You can see it has README. This is powered by the GitHub MCP registry, which is also part in the spec of MCP land, and how actually registries can be served and how things can be installed. So it's really cool to see that evolution from like hacky, do anything in a GitHub repo and like please fork it and install it, to as a user, I don't have to think about MCP. As a user, I just want to connect it to a service I need right now, a database I need to look at right now, and then it just works. So there's a lot of the evolution, I think, that is MCP as standalone. We have MCP now. If you look at MCP, can be served by extensions. So you can have an extension like GitLens, for example, comes with an MCP in the extensions. It uses the protocol. It uses a service, an MCP. It can also provide to other agents. But in this case, it's automatically installed when you get the extension. So a lot of that simplification and just ease of installing, and now MCP adds this ease of using as well with MCP apps. Right.
Yeah, I love that. I think that it becomes the point that it is able to also perform and do stuff like you showed, the market down stuff, like actually converting files and resizing things and doing stuff. It's like, yes, these agents and stuff can call CLIs, which are also an option, but this kind of standardizes a way of doing that across all of these tools, across development platforms and non-development platforms as well that are adopting MCP. You talked about Copilot Studio and these other places that are out there like Cloud Desktop that that pull in and connect to these MCP servers for not only just developers, but also for consumers as well, as we're building these out. And the use cases continue to grow as we do this. And as you said, the VS Code team is continuing ways for us as developers to easily access them and easily bundle them into our software. But to me, I'm a GUI developer. I don't know if you know, Dan and Harold, I love a GUI. I am at my core a mobile developer. I can't help myself, and a desktop developer. I love GUIs. I just can't help myself. Scott Hanselman, friend of the show, big CLI guy that loves just a terminal window, right? Me, nope. I love a GUI. I love to click, bop around, do stuff. And I always thought that MCPs were so interesting because they could connect and do stuff, but it wasn't necessarily the most visual thing. Like, you could return data and the models could, they could put them in a nice markdown table or something like that. But wouldn't it be cool, like, if it could be visual and interactive and things like that? And today is the day, Den, that something has happened. And what has happened, it's in the name of the live stream, but maybe you can give us a rundown and let me know when you want me to bring your screen up.
Spoiler alert, it's called MCP Apps. So earlier today, we announced the availability of MCP Apps, which is an extension to the MCP specifications. For folks that are not immersed too deeply in kind of the MCP world, the MCP, kind of the protocol itself, is based on this concept of a specification that defines what the protocol does, how it works, what are the primitives, and those specifications are versioned by year, basically by date. So what we did is we realized that, and when I say we, it's basically the MCP community, the MCP maintainers, and a lot of the contributors, is that there's a lot of kind of functionality that is not necessarily fit for the core specification, but people still need it. So how do you do that? Well, there's a well-established pattern of what's known as extensions, and this is what it is. Like, MCP Apps is an extension to the protocol that other clients, other MCP clients, such as Claude and vscode, can implement. And what it does is allows servers to effectively provide not only text interaction. This has been kind of the pattern before today, where you have to go back and forth with the LLM and say, like, oh, I'm trying to book a flight. I was like, oh, well, which destination are you going to? So you start like talking, basically like conversing. But wouldn't it be nice if I can just do this through an UI, where if I talk to an MCP server for a travel agent, I get this view that says, okay, like, pick your dates, pick your flights, and I'll do the rest. Much easier. And before that, you'd have to go to a web app. Let me go do this. Let me go and make sure that the agent does the right thing. Now it's right in your chat window with the help of MCP Apps. So it's all built on top of the MCP primitives. None of this is custom to Anthropic in any capacity, right? It's an open protocol. It's an open extension. It's available today. And actually, just today, if we look at the website here, this is the official X Apps, the extension. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. You'll notice that the specification for the extension itself is stable starting today. So this is locked in. We now have basically a version for it. And this enables developers to go in and start building and start creating experiences that bring in UI, these rich interactive experiences, directly into their chat interfaces. Now, all this work is based on the absolutely amazing foundational effort that's been driven by the folks at MCP UI and OpenAI's Apps SDK, right? Like, we've seen these efforts kind of coming more of a grassroots effort, and now they kind of blossomed into what is the MCP Apps extension. So we have a blog post for it. If you go to blog.modelcontextprotocol.io, we can link them after the show, that you can read more and see exactly what it is. There's a handy video from Anthropic. There is some GIFs that show you how this works, including a GIF for VS Code that also shows you how this render. But maybe, just maybe, we talk about bootstrapping a sample one so we can see how it works. What do you think?
Let's do it. I'm in.
Let's do that. I will. This is going to be like an effort for me to actually test our documentation as well. Like, how well can I follow it? So I'm going to go here to my terminal. We're going to maximize this. Can I zoom in the terminal? I'm on Ubuntu, so the regular Control Plus doesn't quite work as well. So I'm just going to be I'm going to be following you, James. I'm going to be doing the GUI click ops here. So
good.
First, let's go to the docs. And also we have a quick start here that you can also easily follow. And it has well-defined steps that you can literally just copy paste commands. And we're going to test this with you right now. First of all, we're going to copy the git clone command. So we're just going to get our repository here. And we're just going to clone the app extensions one. And next, we're going to do what this repository has. It has a bunch of the examples, which, by the way, I super recommend folks do. Like I can just show you. I can copy this, the URL itself, and open a new tab. There's a lot of really good examples that the engineering team has put a lot of effort in that shows you how to build MCP apps. And there is a PDF server, there is a QR code server, there is a say server that actually can tell you stories like in actual real voice coming through your chat interface, which is kind of wild. So go to the repo, get the samples. There's a lot of really good stuff. Now, we're going to jump right back. So we cloned our repository, and what the repository also has with it is a skill, an agent skill. I think you two are familiar with agent skills. I'm sure folks listening, if you don't know what agent skills are, they're supported now mostly universally across the developer tool spectrum. But what they do is basically they're markdown files that and can be bundled with a bunch of scripts, and whether it's Python or PowerShell or Bash, that tell the agent how to do certain things. In our case, we have a skill for creating an MCP app. So we're going to go ahead here. I'm going to paste this command, and what this does is just going to create a local folder for my little Claude CLI or Claude code, and then just put the skills in there so I can use them in my local project. Very simple. And now I can just start Claude. And for folks that are watching this and like, isn't this a VS Code live stream? Why are you showing Claude code? We'll get to VS Code in a second. So here
but to your point, Dan, everything that you're showing here would work in Claude Code, VS Code CLI, VS Code itself, like so the Copilot CLI, whatever you want. Because here you're putting this in the Claude skills. It could be in the GitHub skills. Both, and everyone reads the same things, basically, just different preferences. So if you copied this and you open the same exact thing in VS Code, would work. Copilot CLI would work as well. So
Yeah. Because you'll see that there is like, I'm listing the files, and there's the .claude folder with skills, and inside skills, there's just a markdown file. So if I go to skills, there's create MCP app, which is a skill. And then if we look just inside that, there's a skill.md, right? So as long as skill.md is supported in your agent of choice, congratulations, you can use this. So my agent of choice is Claude Code. I'm going to go to Claude Code, and I'm just going to say create a MCP app that provides a color picker, because we're going to keep it very basic. I just want to make sure that I have a color picker, that if I go into my chat and I can select colors, because I don't know, maybe I'm a web designer that wants to help select the right theme. And we're going to let Claude Code here cook for a little bit. And it's because it's going to identify the skill. We'll notice here it says skill create MCP app, so it knows what it's doing. And we can just let it do its thing. It's going to go and bootstrap a bunch of JavaScript files and frameworks and tooling. And to me, like, it's more fun to talk to you guys right now than it is watching the agent do its thing, because I just believe that it's going to do the right thing. This is actually the way that I have been experimenting with a lot of these MCP apps, because it allows me to remove the need to manually go and do the scaffolding. Now, if you can go to our guide, there's of course instructions for you to do this. Like we show you how to do this with a skill and how to test this. But also, if you want to do this manually and do step by step and learn how to do this yourself, because you want to know how it works from the inside, then also we have the step by step details that you can replicate in your environment. And again, I would lean heavily into the samples that we have, because the samples are tested, they're working. We actually plug them into both Claude and VS Code to see that they work. So highly recommended to start there. But the skill itself is a good way to remove kind of the barrier. And also, we documented this. I believe the Vercel skill CLI allows you to also use this very easily. So just removing barriers for developers.
And NPX skill, right? I think is like that.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Very easy to just get started. And I love, I don't know about you guys, but to me, like one of the biggest problems of starting any project is just the getting started part. Where it's like, I have to scaffold this thing, package that JSON, whatever that is, and the TS config. Just get it out of my way. Just do this for me.
Yeah, I want to see it working, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like once I have a working prototype, then I can start tinkering and saying like, no, the design here doesn't work, the frame doesn't work, and whatever. But like, just get the scaffolding out of the way, because that's such a time-consuming thing. And I think it's interesting because I I am now much more excited about coding than I ever was, because I have so many of these like ideas for projects. It's like, oh, if only I had time for this. Now I have time because I can just like send out a bunch of agents to go and build this for me.
Yeah, this weekend I was playing with the Copilot SDK to build on top of GitHub Copilot, and it was the same thing. Like there was a samples repo, and I was like, I have this idea. Okay, like I just like pointed Copilot at the repo. I was like, here's the sample, here's the repo, but then understand the API and then go build me something that's doing this thing. And it was like, cool, I got the scaffolding done, right? It's like, cool, done.
Yep.
And then boom, boom, boom. And I wrote more command line apps than in my entire life this weekend than I have in my entire life, basically. So you'd be very proud of me. So
I am. Like, I'll give you one example. Like I got to the point where I use a lot of these agents to solve my own paper cuts. Like one of the things that I had for the longest time is I use an email client called Thunderbird. So for folks who don't know, it's Mozilla Thunderbird. It's open source. And one of the things that it does not have that I really, really miss from other clients like Gmail and Outlook is @ mentions. That if I reply to like both of you guys, I can say @ Harold, @ James, hey, what do you think about the VS Code live stream? And it just doesn't have that. And just it's just such a little annoyance that I just tossed like Claude Code or Opus 4.5 and say like, yep, just go and build me an extension that does @ mentions. And it just did. It went and it created it, and it researched how to do this. It packaged it up and it's like, and now here, go and copy paste this directly into your the client. And it just like fantastic. It saved me so much time. I didn't have like, I only needed that one extension from Thunderbird. I do not want to learn how the Thunderbird extension model works. I just have this one thing that I want working, and it did it for me. And I was like, this is amazing. We're living in the future.
I like it. Now, this is also interesting too, because since we are living in the future and this thing just came out today, I see what the model is attempting to do, and like the skills should be guiding it quite a bit to like scaffolding out this MCP as well, because it's all new, right? And that's what I ended up finding this weekend. So people are going to try, like reading the docs, understanding it does is important, especially if you have an MCP maybe server already. But then in this case, what could be really nice is that these skills and these instructions, right, are literally guiding the model towards like how to use these new APIs. So actually like these sample repos, like you said, you could point, you know, these models, your tool of choice at those and say, hey, here's an existing one. Can we go? And we can kind of see, and I'm assuming you're on, it looks like you're on Opus. It looks like Opus is trying to figure out all the things to do and being guided by the skill, or so we hope.
Yeah.
It says opening.
Yeah. So this is done. It's done the job. It told us like this is how to run this. This is why it's also great about a lot of these agents. They actually write the docs for you. So I don't have to write the reading. It's like, oh yeah, I put this together. Like do an npm install, npm start, npm run dev. So in this case, I'm going to go to my color picker. So we're going to go to our color picker MCP. Let's look inside the package.json just to make sure that we're running the right command. So I can just do an npm run dev. I'm assuming this should work. npm run dev. Is this going to start the server? Yeah. So, okay. So it starts the server at localhost 3001 MCP. Now, depending on what client you're going to be using for testing this, the habit that I personally got into is using Cloudflare tunnels to go and expose this to the internet for my specific server and then easily connect to it. So I don't have to deal with, like, like localhost and loopback permissions and whatever. So we're going to open a new tab here, and I'm going to, if only I can learn what is the actual Linux shortcut for zooming into terminal.
If anyone knows in the chat, let Den know.
Like, let me know, please.
It's not Control+.
You'll make my day. It's not Control+. It doesn't work. Okay, so we have localhost. So what I'm going to do is Cloudflare D, and then tunnel, and then URL is going to be HTTP localhost 3001, right? It was 3001, just to double check. That was the port. Yep, 3001. Yes. And we're not using the MCP suffix because we're just exposing basically the host itself. So we have this. And what Cloudflare is going to do is just going to give me a URL that I can just copy here. And we're going to go ahead and copy. And then I can go to VS Code Insiders. And also this, I'm going to zoom in with Control+ because thank you. The folks at VS Code actually know how to design a good user experience. So we're going to do a Command Shift or Control Shift P, add MCP server, HTTP. We're going to paste our URL from Cloudflare and add the /MCP suffix here and make sure that we remove the space. No. There we go. We have this. The name is irrelevant because it doesn't really matter. I'm going to start it. And we have one tool available. This is the color picker.
All you need, Dan, just one tool.
I have Opus 4.5 selected here, so I can say, give me the color picker. We're going to be very explicit here with this tool, so we're not going to let it guess much.
Now, previously, for example, you might have created a MCP server that did a bunch of conversions and things and brought things back, right? You know, and it would do all this for you. But now we have created an actual user interface inside of a
user interface, right? Like this, like I can see I'm moving this around. It's an actual functional UI, and this can be anything, right? Like boom, it's how many minutes did it take us to create this? And I can just like copy the hex. I can manually enter these are text boxes, right? So I can do like I don't know, 45 12 09, right? And notice that it just changed dynamically. This is great. And also MCP apps are fantastic because they're bidirectional. Like this is not just the UI that you statically render here and like it's contained to the UI. Like, oh, I can only pick a color. Like it can interact with other MCP tools. It can interact with other MCP servers, with other APIs that you need, and so on and so forth. So you can also select a color. In this case, notice that it automatically added it to the context of my conversation. And from here on, I can just go and say, now go and pick whatever, what are the colors that match best with what I picked, and give me a color palette, because now I want to redesign my website to use this color scheme. So it's great. I love it. And I think that the integration is, and vscode is like, in particular, I've been using it to test a lot. So thank you, Harold.
Yeah, thank you, Connor. So this is, the team has been excited about it. And I've been doing to so many meetups in the past months and weeks where it's like, everybody's like, hey, MCP UI, when is it coming? Are you working on it? And like, yeah, it's in a branch. And then like over the past weeks, it's just been, it's now on by default.
It's great.
Insider, so
I also love when we talk to Harold about this. We're like, hey, Harold, we're cooking something up. Like, is it okay if we like test VS Code? And Daryl's like, yep, already supporting it. Like, great. I love it. Like, it's fantastic.
Well, I want to point out that it's not only interactable, but like here, for example, there's like a copy hex and obviously a select color that's providing additional context, right? So I think now you also said, Dan, that it's bi-directional. So my assumption is here, even though we created a color picker, which is one way, that you can have interactive elements that send things back to the MCP server. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. You can have like, I don't know, like a stock tracker that is just directly embedded in your chat that live updates the stock prices or the flight prices, hotel prices, whatever you want.
Oh, interesting.
It's a universe of richness that is up there to discover for everybody that wants to build MCP apps right now.
That is so. What are the capabilities besides this? So is this just one rendering web UI? Then what's actually happening under the hood?
Under the hood. So this is a fully sandboxed iframe. So Harold can probably talk more about the implementation of VS Code, but there is basically some degree of isolation. So for folks that are security conscious and they're like, oh no, this is very much like constrained intentionally so to make sure that it doesn't create more problems for you. But it is basically HTML. It is like at its core, it's HTML.
And like
I think initially the specs, the MCP UI spec where this kind of evolved out of had more options to render, like which kind of made this a bit complicated. So using iframes, which basically come out of browsers with like a existing isolation and sandboxing and everything browsers do to keep this secure. There's a lot of kind of out of the box, just the web makes iframes work and secure benefits that come with this. And then the message passing where you can like update it and get updates back. That's like a very well-defined just message bus that then can bring back some of the context.
And all of this, again, is built on the MCP. I love what Harold just said, because it's all still built on top of the MCP primitives. Like, it's behind the scenes, it's still JSON RPC. It's still, again, it's standard MCP with just a UI layer on top of it.
Is inside this iframe, so we're bundling up HTML, CSS, JavaScript, I'm assuming, like, what is the additional security things that people are aware of, like, when this is happening?
So all this stuff is like, basically we document this in the our documentation as well. There's a whole security model section. So it's all constrained to the DOM itself within the iframe, and again managed directly through the existing post message API. So all the constraints that you're well familiar with if you build web apps or the kind of segmented web apps, they apply here as well.
Well, this is awesome because what I was doing before is I have my reference sample monkey MCP, which everybody knows about. And what I was doing before is I would use that MCP to get this real world data of monkey GPS data. And then I would create a Jupyter notebook to visualize that. But now I could actually visualize this monkey data in real time coming in through an MCP app.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, because if you're working in high security environments where you have clients that require certain constraints, this allows you to do just as much. Like they can control what functionality out of this to expose, what API surface to make available.
That's so cool. All right, we have a pro tip here really quick. If you head back to your terminal from the one and only Kayla Cinnamon, to see if it works.
All right.
Just guessing. Control Shift plus.
Control Shift plus, Control Shift minus. Does it? Oh, wait. Does it? Did it do it? No. It did. It did. Control Shift plus, it does. Look at that. I made it super big, but now how do I go back? Because Control Shift minus is not. See, this is like bad UX.
Oh,
right?
Control minus.
So I have to do a Control Shift plus and Control minus. Got it. Okay. Well, today I learned. Thank you, Kayla. I very much appreciate it. For folks that don't know, Kayla is a terminal expert in like more than one capacity. So thank you, Kayla.
That's awesome. All right, we do have some questions really quick here, and then we're going to head for more sweet demos from Harold. Okay, so over here, which is good. Talking about this MCP in general, Jim was asking, is there some sort of marketplace? How do we know that these extensions are secure? Is there a vetted place on the internet? And Harold, you showed off the MCP sort of registry inside. Maybe Den, you can talk about the registry itself and where that shows up and how it shows up in different places. Oh, Den's muted, and that's the worst because it's a sweet nothing.
2020 problems. It's like we're back 5 years, 6 years ago. But anyway, so yes, there's the MCP registry that is essentially the index of all available MCP servers out there. Now, of course, it's voluntary. So if somebody just ships an MCP server and puts it on GitHub and never tells anybody, it's still there and anybody can install it. But the MCP registry itself it does exist like an API that you can just use and query in your clients. That being said, on kind of the concept of a universal marketplace, it depends on the client implementer, because I know that, for example, Claude has its own marketplace. VS Code has its own marketplace, like the kind of the way it's exposed to customers. So it depends, and it depends on the ecosystem that you're in. I don't want to speak kind of globally for how these filters and constraints work depending on, again, the ecosystem that you're in, but it is a thing depending on what agent platform you're using. And maybe Harold can speak more on the VS Code side.
Yeah, so we run against the GitHub MCP registry, which is github.com/MCP, which serves basically, it uses the MCP registry spec. So any client who supports the registry spec will be able to connect to it, which I'm aware of VS Code. But I think there is a thing in the registry spec, there is the idea like people can come up with the right registries in the ecosystem that serve different security needs. It could be HIPAA compliance. It could be like hands-on security scanning, like all of these aspects, like depending on the industry you're in, your needs for compliance and security vastly differ. We do a lot in the VS Code marketplace. It's a lot of work to run a marketplace securely. Then we see that by people like trying to make their own extension marketplace, and like staying on top of security is a struggle for some. So that's definitely the trusting the client and which marketplace they run against, and kind of having that right security stance is important. So I think for MCP, the benefit is there is remote MCPs. So if you trust the company domain that you're running against, then you can probably also trust that MCP that they're serving, if it's not like in some weird preview state in this side project from somebody. But usually you know that the server coming from Atlassian serves Atlassian data, handles OAuth in a way that's right. So that's probably the first I would go for, just remote MCPs.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And this, like the analogy that I use for like remote MCP is just an API. Like typically, like think about it. If you go to a website and it asks you to log in with your, like, I don't know, Gmail credentials, how willing are you to hand off your credentials to whatever website that is? It's the same way with MCP. Like if you have a remote MCP, how willing are you to log in with your credentials to that MCP? Local MCP servers are just local applications. They just run on your machine. So just as much as you trust the author of a local app, you trust the author of an MCP server that runs locally. This is exactly the same threat. Well, there's more to it, but it's mostly the same threat model.
Yeah. If it has crypto in the name, you could probably stay away. You also, you can also create your own enterprise. If you're an enterprise, Azure API Center actually has an entire way of doing enterprise scale and also like restricting and things like that, and serving it up for your internal companies. You can control access to MCP servers at your company for your company, including ones that you build as well, which I think is really awesome. I also want to say, does this finally mean that we can have Piley says here that we can just have a bunch of games in the MCP that can like save the state? So like now we can have like, we know how we have VS Code pets. Maybe we could have like an MCP pets. Maybe that's a weekend hackathon for you, Dan.
Yes.
I showed you how to use the skill. I'm just waiting for somebody to go build this now.
Yeah. Well,
Dan, like a debugging mode where it's actually bugs you need to squash along the way, and the more you hit, the more reasoning effort the AI spends on fixing it.
You know what? This reminds me of that. There's so many people that are just being reminded they're more creative than I am. Where somebody built basically, you know how you have to orchestrate sometimes swarms of agents to do like, oh, this agent's for debugging, this agent's for this. Somebody built basically a real-time strategy like Warcraft, like StarCraft, that kind of like the view, the isometric view, and they're managing their agents as they're managing like the soldiers in the field. And I thought that was like so freaking cool. And like I cannot wait for somebody to build this into the MCP app where I can manage my agents inside my chat through the MCP app as if I'm playing a real-time strategy game.
That'd be wild. Okay, question for you here, and then we'll go into some sweet new demos from Harold and talk about the blog post that you can bring up there as well from the VS Code team. Anerd says, can MCP apps contain a nested iframe inside of the iframe? Is that the frame domains property in the CSP options? Do you know there, Dan?
That is a great thing that we'll have to follow up on. I have not tried to do like the iframe inception yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. But the nice thing, it's available today, so you go try it out. Just ask.
Just try it out. You run into issues in the blog post that I shared earlier, and again, it's going to be probably later in the show notes. There is a section for feedback. So if you see something that's broken, it doesn't work, let us know.
Nice. I love that. Harold, what do you got for us, buddy? Because the team has been busy. I'll bring up your screen. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to randomly bring up your screen.
So first, I have the answer. So if you have a question about MCP apps, as Dan said, use the skill, or I actually use I have a skill. So I ran into the same thing as I made demos. It's like, this is repetitive. I pointed it at the spec, but then because there is MCP UI from the past as well, and that's the typical problem people run with agents that run against like web searches, right? You ask it something and then it answers part of training data and part of whatever it finds on the internet. And with MCP, because of its glorious name, it can get confused as well. So I was like, no, this spec, like look at this website, look at these examples, and there's a ton, right? And then it just ran and it built something working and beautiful. So I think that's and then I said like, okay, put all this what you learned into a skill, and that's it's actually called this here. As you look into the reasoning, it's like, oh, let me look at the skill. And then it looked at documentation and same thing. So it's, that agent skill system and capturing kind of knowledge into something usable is really powerful. So what did we ship? The blog post is, our VS Code website. And what's really cool, so one is I threw some of the examples in as well. Like I can show some of them, like interactive list reordering. And that's one of the things where I had a good work prototype and then like, oh, make it look more VS Code and kind of nice, work really well on the small screen. And then suddenly it looked beautiful. Thanks Copilot. and then visualization worked really well, and then feature flag selector. And all of these demos, I think I had to do because there isn't a massive ecosystem, like typical MCP problem, like we ship a spec, and people want to see what it does first and want to understand it, which is why we do these live streams. And then they will start investing. Because some people, as I live in a Bay Area where people just love all things MCP and especially MCP UI, actually a lot of people already jumped in, like Storybook, and you can check out their video in our blog. They actually have a PR that you can also check out online that implements MCP apps into the Storybook MCP. And Storybook, of course, is one of these very visual tools. You wouldn't imagine just to chat about Storybook, which shows you UI mockups and how components look like, oh, this border and that font and this state, and you want to hover it and want to see how it feels. So it's a great example how MCP apps can give you a more visual feel. And if you look at the video, just going to scroll forward, I'm going to play the whole video, but there's a whole section on then using these UI components and just playing around with like what the different buttons are. So definitely recommend those. And to the demo I showed, so we had MCP apps like this iteration that landed, and then we got first feedback actually from the MCP community Discord that it's working well. We fixed a few bugs and quickly enabled it afterwards. So that's the thing also, if you ever have questions about MCP to go really deep, join the MCP community Discord. And that's a place where you can find like-minded people who will probably jump in and help you solve those and think about those. But just to show the demo I have, so this is actually linked in the blog post as well. MCP Apps Playground is just mine. So as Dan said, like now in the official repo, there's a ton of more examples. These are just like mine, what would work well in vscode for like a developer-centric workflow. And one thing to point out, what vscode has, what's been really helpful, is this dev section in the MCP JSON, which allows you to watch a specific folder, which will then restart the server once it changes. So this workspace has the server that I'm working on with a watch script running in the background. So anytime the new feature gets written in, this will actually update in the background. And then what happens is the agent can actually run the command right away and try it out for me. So you get a really interesting workflow of like, oh, I updated this, let me show you, which is really cool.
That's cool.
So a lot of fun to work on this kind of stuff. And then once you start it as well, you always see the logs popping up automatically. So it's really helpful to just stay on top of it. If something breaks, you see the logs, which surprisingly hard in some MCP clients to get to the logs of why your MCP breaks, because the client has to expose it because the client has access to it, right? So yeah, that's kind of how I got to it. But then if you just run it, this one, for example, that's the sorting list feature. That's one of the list sorting. And that's one of the cool examples where I think, yes, I could talk for hours about like, oh yeah, we should maybe profile switcher first. And then like it's all these little tweaks sometimes you have about a plan, and you don't want to do that in natural language. Like sometimes you just pop a plan into Markdown and you move things around, but sometimes it's not always Markdown. So you want to have these moments where I'm just like prioritizing, having a quick way to interact with the UI that really make this useful. So people have been asking left and right, like, why do we need it? Because most people think MCP is just tools, but MCP has a lot of collaborative elements built in that are not widely adopted yet. So I'm really excited where this is going now that we have this surface where people love to build their own UIs other than like using something existing. And then you can bring your own brand in, you can bring your own personality in, and like really rich interactions. Like one thing I really love where I build it is like, show me the frame chart. Where it's like, this is perfect. And I had actually a few discussions with people who work on performance tools who brought up this specific example of like, we have this rich performance data. Can we show it? And yes, you can. Like a flame graph, I love to click around. I worked on performance tooling for a while. I worked on Firefox Profiler in the past. I love performance tools. So being able to just click in and browsing a performance tool like this is a lot easier than like doing it elsewhere and then going back to the agent. Hey, actually, I found the hottest path that's important to fix.
Well, and the cool part here is like imagine you are profiling your app, right? And you have all this data. Like let's say like I'm a .NET developer, so we have .NET Monitor that's like going
Right.
and doing all this perf data and you're running it. But the cool part here is that if you're running that via agent mode, right? Inside of here, it's going to have all this data, which can then pipe it into the MCP server that can then visualize it. You can then click around and you could create this MCP app that basically says, oh, here is and identifies the actual issue, and then you click on it, and then that calls back into the agent to then go work on the thing in this interactive way. So you don't have to parse all of this huge data. You get this beautiful visualization. And I think this is a great view as you zoom out. I think a lot of MCP apps are going to be in this nice zoomed out, more, 1920 by 1080 TV view, if you will, because it works really, really nice, right? Being able to toggle back and forth into that wide zoom. I love that. But like you're saying, I love when you click on it, right? And you get this information that gets bounced right back into this window. So it actually helps you make and debug your apps better, which is so cool.
So much better than looking at tables, right?
Yeah.
It's like, find me hotspots. Like, here's our top 10 hotspots in a table. And like, but I can't see it. Now you can.
Right. I think there is an interesting conundrum is where like people think like there's more and more autonomous long running sessions that agents do. But even when I talk to people who run like 1 to 2 hour sessions, even they spend a lot more time upfront on the planning, right? That's these long running sessions happen on something like a spec or something like an issue that you spend time with the agent to analyze, right?
But like Harold, even the example that you showed about like the list reordering, I'm thinking like if you put this into a spec-driven workload, right? Because sometimes like, yes, you offload entirely to the agent, but oftentimes I'm human in the loop. And it can ask me, it's like, well, what's the priority of the 10 features that you want? Like, and if I have to explain, it's like, well, first start with feature 1, then in your list, feature 2, or you just give me that list and let me like reshuffle it, be like, okay, this is the most important, and I'll just do it quickly. And then it has that context, boom, done. Save me a bunch of time.
And like you were saying, is like when you're dragging and drop those around, it can call back. So it can make those changes in real time. I'm even thinking of really simple things like, we see this all the time, which is again, with that database example, it'd be like, hey, I have the script like ready to go, like enter ready or go. Let me just click a button, like go do it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make my, and then do these things in real time to actually see those things from a user's perspective. That GUI part of it is really, really nice. I mean, to each your own, but when you can visualize things, or for your example, Den is saying like moving things around, you can not only just move it around and then hit go, right? So you can have these multi-step things that are happening here kind of that really make this like tiny mini apps, hence the name MCP apps.
Yeah, I think the best practice there is like, it is building trust, right? That's the thing, the main problem. Like if I can definitely ask the agent to analyze a performance profile, and it's probably amazing at it and gives me like, your hottest loop is here, and then it's going to be like a wall of text explaining it. But if I can instead have like, I did the analysis and here's a flame graph with the important notes highlight, is like, yeah, I get it. Like, sure, this is the stuff we need to fix versus me reading a long analysis. And that's how humans work too. Like if we'd rather have a quick graph of like where the problem is than the long winded multi-slide presentations. Like, this is how we found the performance bug and this is what we thought about. And then so this is like where MCP apps can really, where people need to think like, what is the visual that will help the user better understand this and take action. And that's another one here where it's like the other one, what's a really complex thing people have to do all the time, where it's not just like binary, like yes, no questions. So like in the feature rollout, you oftentimes have these long-running feature flags that get slowly rolled out, or only on stable, or only on pre-release, and then maybe they're only some part of the audience. So it's a lot of information for the agents. If you just tell it like what to enable, it gets very wordy and like, oh, like rolled out to only that audience. Like, oh, do we have that audience? I don't know. Like, where is it now? So it's a lot of status that you can show in an MCP app that then allows you to just take action and put in the code back and then take action on what you have selected, and also to filter it down, like allow me to look at everything that the agent looked at and then take action. So that's a really cool example that I like as well.
Now, one question I had too really quick is, can these like update in real time? Like, is it one shot? Because kind of like, when I think of MCPs, it's going to go out and fetch some stuff, return the data, wait for me to do something, right? In this case, this is a live visualization, but is it live? So for example, Den, you were talking about like a stock ticker.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Is it?
It can be.
Oh, okay. It's like SignalR type of WebSocket type of stuff could just do the thing. Like, how would that work in reality? Yeah. Or is it once you have the app, is it able to like pipe updates from?
Yeah,
you
have like a JavaScript that is going to call some API to query the data.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So all of these are just iframes. If you look at the code, these are the UI, there's a server behind it, but the feature flags, it's all, in this case, it's all in one file. It's just a beautiful, massive blob of text, including all the scripts. So you run JavaScript in an iframe. Depending on what information you feed it, it can do anything you want. It can do like go back to the user, tell it something else. So it's highly dynamic. You just have to find the right kind of user experience for like, do you just want to have things moving around while it updates? Like, what's the purpose of this?
That's awesome. A lot of excitement. Jeremy says it's exciting. Also, Augustine, the flame graph, attached to like a profiling agent, pinpoint what's wrong, see it, visualize it in real time is awesome to see.
As somebody that also does a lot of like API reverse engineering, like just wiring up something directly from Fiddler and seeing like the requests and the length of time it takes and the responses, and not just delegate like the agent has it somewhere in the background in some JSON file. This is like a godsend.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and there's more UIs. I think the agent, like we're just adding Mermaid as well. That's in progress. So there's more UIs, but most of it is Markdown right now. And I think one of my use cases I want to build for myself is more of these kind of whiteboard experiences where I want to give the agent something that's more creative and has more kind of space to figure out like, oh, can we group these somehow? No, that's wrong. Can you ungroup this? Like do something else. So a more visual way to work with it. That's not just bullet points. Like my life of checklists and bullet points now in Markdown, it's just too much.
I like that. A few questions for you really quick before we get out of here is like, once this is loaded, like when is it unloaded? So for example, let's say I was creating something that was updating in real time. When does it get unloaded? Or is there like a mechanism there that's like, hey, this thing's out of scroll, so don't invoke the JavaScript? Or how does that work from a developer's perspective?
Yeah, it's left to client. So it's a resource behind it. So anytime the client wants to render it, I can even now, if I go out, this is already unloaded now. So if I go back in, it does reload it because all is just in the backend. It's just a file that's served through the MCP server. So the agent can do its own garbage collection, whatever it needs to re-render it. What other clients do, like Cloud Desktop or Cloud AI and ChatGPT, with MCP apps, they allow you to maximize it, and they actually have some more heuristics in place. When you ask for a change, they will take the same response and update what's in the background, so it's more kind of dynamic and updated. So we're going to work on those as well as we see those patterns emerge. But overall, it's just it's an iframe in the background, so the client can do more things to it dynamically to get it out of the system, get back hydrated. But it doesn't do any kind of magic of keeping data or anything. That's all up to the MCP server to understand like, oh, this is my state, and when I have to render it, this is how it should look like.
Very cool. Yeah, I was thinking about like pinning. Like it'd be cool to pin like the MCP app UI like there, or like float, like pop it out, float it above, for our MCP pets that Den's gonna write this weekend.
We can call them widgets.
Kind of widgets. Could have called them widgets. I'm in MCP app widgets. I'm just saying, I'm just thinking about it. Well, because I was thinking here, to Augustine's point, imagine if a profiler agent was running, it wouldn't have to render a new flame chart. It could like update it in real time as things are coming in, which would be kind of crazy to think about if that's a possibility. So
yeah, it's going to be fun as we figure out that feedback scenario. If you look at how the kind of full desktop clients do it, with a background thing, like you can actually fold in more data. You can say like, oh, look at my front end, look at my back end, maybe visualize like this. You can still use natural language. You don't have to click around to change everything. So that there's some cool combinations on how you want to work with this UI as well.
Yeah, I saw the comment about live tiles, and man, that's some flashbacks right there.
I love live tiles. I'm a fan.
Live tiles.
Live tiles. Well, that means we also have to bring this live stream to an end because I have a meeting. So that is the best way to end any live streams. I got to go to click a join call button. This was awesome. Den, thank you so much for coming on. Den over at Anthropic talking about this because it's great here. You know, when we did MCP Dev Days, the skills launch, the thoughts, like these are big parts of work done across many companies all coming together for standardization and rolling out and sim shipping, if you will, which is a word that I hate, but it's all of us simultaneously shipping at the same time. So you can go install VS Code Insiders today, update it, and boom, it's there. Check out the blog, code.visualstudio.com, for all the different samples that not only Den showed off, but also Harold showed off. Model Context IO, Model Context Protocol.io. There we go. Also there, I've linked all those there too. And there's aka.ms links, of course, in the show notes as well. Anything else from you, Den, before we get out of here in our last minute?
I'm just super thankful for both of you. A lot of this came very, very hot. And like Harold, James, like I cannot express just how I appreciate working with y'all. It's fantastic.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege on this side. Anything else from you, Harold?
No, it's been awesome to work with the community who's been so excited about this. Connor, who did most of the work on the VS Code site, he's been just rocking it. So thanks to everybody who's been helping with this.
Well, go check it out. Go build some MCP apps. Let us know. Hit us up on social what you're building. Go update, build some beautiful UI. I just love user interfaces. So let's go off and build and update your existing, because the cool part is I already have MCP servers. I'm ready to update today. All right, Den, Harold, thank you both so much for showing off all this amazingness and for all the hard work that you do across MCP and so much more. That's going to do it for this VS Code live stream. So until next time, I'm James. That's Harold. That's Den. Happy coding.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.